What's up, everybody? It's the Alex Leak and Friends NBA podcast, back for another week. I'm your host, Alex Leak. We got Dustin on the show as always. Dustin, good to have you.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
And you guys are in for a treat. We have an absolute legend on the show today, Peter Vescey. Thanks so much for coming on the show, Peter.
Still a legend in my own room.
I mean, no joke. A basketball Hall of Famer, host of Hoop Du Jour podcast, writer for the New York Post, analyst and NBA insider for TBS, NBC, and NBA TV. It's great to have you on the show, Peter.
You know what? I was thinking that I just saw that Barkley signed a new contract with TNT.
Yeah.
Supposedly $10 million a year for 10 years. And I was in the studio when he started. I was in their studio for 4.5 years, and his coming to the studio, his arrival basically prompted my departure.
Oh, really?
Yeah, we didn't get along. So I'm just thinking, God, I could have used a couple million of that, you know.
It's crazy.
maybe I'd be able to go to Vegas and bet $20,000 a hand, you know.
It's crazy to think Barkley's making more money now than he ever did as a player.
Oh, no question. Oh yeah. Well, who isn't? You know.
Yeah.
Times have changed. Yeah.
So the NBA season opening tonight, we got Sixers at Celtics and Lakers at Warriors. Are you excited for this upcoming NBA season?
No, you know, I think I told you, Alex, I'm not really into the league that much in the last few years. You know, I'll follow the important stuff and try to figure it out, or, you know, or make sarcastic comments while watching games on television. I definitely watched the first half of the Celtics and Philly tonight and had a few comments. But, you know, am I excited? You know, I enjoy seeing what's going to happen. I have no predictions. Everyone says, you know, who do you think's going to, you know, win? Blah blah blah. I have no idea.
Yeah.
Does anybody else? No. You know, and really, what does it matter? You know, Phoenix has a great season last year, and then they get to the playoffs and they bomb in Game 7 against Dallas. Yeah. So who knows? Who knows? But I like seeing what's going on.
Nice. Dustin, go ahead.
What do you got, Dustin?
Yeah, so LeBron is close to passing Kareem and stuff, and he was asked if he had any thoughts or relationship. He said no thoughts, no relationships. I feel as though LeBron doesn't have really respect for legends. What is your take on that?
Well, I'm sure we were all kind of wondering what that was about, though. You know, Kareem did knock him. I can't remember what it was for not having. What was it for? He celebrated disrespectfully or unceremoniously after he did something, and Kareem wrote something negative about that. But then he came back and wrote positive stuff about him. I don't want to guess, you know, what LeBron thinks about the legends and stuff. We certainly know what he thinks about, you know, Kobe and Michael Jordan and those kind of guys. And I'm sure he's got respect for Magic and Bird and stuff. I can't believe that he doesn't. So I don't know. You know, he makes up teams. He made up a Laker team recently, didn't he? And he left off. Who did he leave off? Wilt or who did he?
Yeah,
remember?
or maybe Kareem. I don't know, but
one of them. He left off Baylor. You know, yeah. So he might think he knows. He might think and he put himself on the great Laker teams, which is ludicrous. I mean, come on, that's ludicrous. Mm-hmm. He did have Jerry West, which is more than Jeannie Buss had, so that was positive. But I just wish that if they're going to start picking teams and naming great players and stuff, that they really had a grip on what history was like in the NBA. You know, have a sense of history of the NBA, and many of them don't. Kobe did. Kobe definitely did, because his dad played for the Sixers with Julius Erving. I knew his dad. I used to kid Kobe all the time. I said, I knew your dad before you were even a thought. You know, we double, triple dated with Joe Bryant and his wife, Henry Bibby, and his then wife, and my then wife. We triple dated back in the day before Kobe was ever born.
Wow.
I don't know. Do you know how he got the name Kobe?
No, I don't.
So I sent him a note one day. You know, we used to, you know, text each other after games and stuff. And I just brought it up about, you know, Kobe. Like, did he name you? Were you named after, you know, the town, the city, Kobe, Japan? Were you named after that? And he goes, no, actually, my parents were eating Kobe steak in a restaurant, and they thought it was a great name, and that's how he got the name. And I still have the text. I said, no, you're serious? Are you serious? He goes, yeah, that's how it happened.
That's awesome.
Yeah, kind of funny.
That's
So again, just you know, I don't, Dustin, I don't want to, you know, try to figure out what LeBron's thinking. But you know, if they don't have a relationship, he and Kareem, they're going to have one pretty damn soon, because unless he gets injured, and that's the end of his career, which has happened to the last two guys that were approaching Kareem. You know, Karl Malone got hurt, and that was the end of his quest. And then Kobe got damaged, and that was the end of his quest. So, you know, if LeBron gets there, and you know, he's going to break other records too, that you know, he's going to see a lot of Kareem, and I'm sure that they'll at least fake it. They'll at least pretend to have a relationship.
Yeah, and I don't know, like when LeBron said that whole not 5, not 6, not 7, I thought that was a tad, you know, disrespectful. I grew up Karl Malone ringless, you know. I grew up Gary Payton, Sean Kemp ringless, Reggie Miller, you know, Stockton, and it's like, it's hard to win, and to say not 5, not 6, not 7. And then did you see those comments about Phil Jackson, how he had nothing for Phil Jackson?
No, what was that about Phil Jackson? Yeah, I agree with you on the, you know, the 5, 6, 7. He got mocked for that many times since. So he's kind of outgrown it. You know, he goes and he wins one in Cleveland, and then, you know, wins one in you know, with the Lakers. But no, what was the Phil Jackson stuff?
It was like from Pat Riley's book or something like that, or Phil. It was like Pat Riley and Phil having a conversation, and it was quote unquote talking about LeBron's posse, like his clutch group.
Oh, yeah.
And LeBron said that took posse to be like kind of like a racial thing.
Yeah, that's a shame. You know, it seems he's always gravitating toward finding something racial in what people say. I'm going to use posse anytime I want, and he can say whatever he wants. It's not racial. You know, you got a crew, you know, whatever you want to call it. You know, there are many names for it, for having guys, having your boys with you. But he took exception to it, and whatever, he's wrong. I'm trying to think, Phil Jackson and Riley. I wonder if they have a relationship. I don't even know that.
Yeah.
If I ever get to interview either one of them, I got to go there and ask. It's kind of interesting that neither one of them ever got to coach the Olympics. Was asked. Maybe they were asked, they turned it down. I don't know. But neither one of those great coaches who won so many titles coached an Olympic team. You know, Popovich won 5, and he got asked, and he was an assistant coach beforehand. Maybe they didn't want to or could not give that kind of time that was needed, you know, you have to give like 3 years, 3 summers of your life. Maybe that they were at that stage where they didn't feel they could do that. I don't know, you know, and who's doing the picking, you know, who's choosing the coach. You know, Coach K thought, here's something for you. Coach K thought that he was going to coach the dream team. He had been an assistant coach before, and when they finally formed the team at the last meeting, I know this for a fact that they told him at the last meeting that he was not going to coach the team, because not that he had been told he was going to do it, but he assumed he was going to do it. But David Stern had said, he had told, the people who were running this show that the NBA players were not going to play for a college coach for the dream team. That was David Stern saying that. Wow. And so at the last meeting when they picked Drexler, Coach K was there. I believe he had a vote on the team. There were several college coaches that had votes, like PJ Carlissimo had one. I think Boeheim might have. I'm not sure about Boeheim. But so at the meeting, he was told, by the way, no, it's going to be Chuck Daly. And I remember Jack McCloskey, who was Daly's general manager with the Pistons, he was on that committee. And he told Coach K, he said, hey, let me tell you something. I was supposed to be the assistant coach for an Olympic team, and I can't do it off the top of my head. For what's one of the Olympic teams, he was coaching Wake Forest at the time, and he was going to be an assistant. And then he took the Portland Trailblazers head coaching job. And they told him, they said, you're out. You can't be part of the Olympic, team anymore. So he told that to Coach K, and he said, so this is the way it is. So it's just kind of an anecdote that's never been told before, I don't believe. And I'm trying to think, that was McCloskey the Portland Trailblazers coach, or was he an assistant? I think he was the head coach. Look it up, Justin. Look it up while we're talking here.
So I'm sure you've seen many, player fights, like teammate fights over the years. And the big conversation recently.
Well, I haven't seen them, but I've heard of them. Yeah.
Written about them and all that.
Yeah.
So the Draymond Jordan Poole thing, do you think that's a big deal? I mean, Jordan, Steve Kerr, I remember Bobby Portis, Nikola Mirotic. Do you think it's a big deal? The Warriors seem to have kind of gotten over it as a team.
I do think it's a big deal, especially when you've got a guy sucker punching a teammate, as we saw on the film, on the tape. And really hitting him hard. It's truly amazing that he didn't hurt him. Mm-hmm. I mean, he could have broken up his face, like Kermit Washington broke up Rudy T's face. He could have done that. That's how much of a punch it was. It came at him, full length, all power, a lot of power in that punch. So I think it's ludicrous that he wasn't suspended. Yeah. But they're putting winning ahead of everything. Mm-hmm. And that's the way it's going to be. And they're also probably at the same time trying to trade him, because they're certainly not going to re-sign him to a new contract, and he's got one more year left. It's his choice at the end of next year, at the end of this season. And that's a lot of money, so he's going to do that. So I'm sure they'd love to get rid of him while they get rid of that money, because they're paying an exorbitant tax that really becomes big next year when Poole's contract doesn't kick in until next year. He's like on a $5 million contract this year, so next year it becomes whatever 20. So now you're doubling up on the tax. They're going to pay an exorbitant tax anyway. But so if they could move Green and not get any money back, maybe for a draft pick or something, I'm sure they would do it at some point. You talk about the fights, you mentioned a couple, and Jordan did hit Kerr. Interestingly enough, that he's the coach of this team, and he blackened his eye. He hit him, he decked him, he really hurt him. I know others, John Long, when he was with the Pacers, he punched out Scott Skiles in practice. And Scott Skiles immediately retired. He was so upset and so hurt that he retired. And I remember the Pacers came into Madison Square Garden right after that happened, or the practice might have happened while they were in New York, or maybe in Indiana, then they flew to New York. And it took about, you could look this up, just I'm going to put you to work today. Look it up, see how many games it took for Skiles to come back. That they, to get over that. And there were others, the bad boys had skirmishes all the time. And, you know, this one was bad because you got a big guy hitting a smaller guy. And the Pistons did a little differently. Isaiah like to punch Mahorn and like to punch Lambeer, you know, and he punched Lambeer once and broke his hand.
Wow.
So I mean, there are a lot of instances where, you know, I'm sure it was talked about at length or written about at length how the Knicks used to war at practice all the time, and Riley kind of liked it. You know, they would break it up. They'd break up Oakley and Mason. They'd break up, you know, Oakley and Xavier McDaniels, or Mason, and they would break it up. But then one day they let Oakley and Mason just go at it. They said, no, let them go. And they went at it. And they really went at it. But those are two big guys going at it. So it's not the same thing, you know. And nobody got suspended. Well, maybe they did. I'm not sure. I'm not sure about that.
It's crazy. Go ahead, Dustin.
So was MJ retiring the first time anything to do with his gambling punishment, or was it so he could go play baseball to grieve his father's death or his father passing away?
So neither one. Now I'm going to tell you stuff here, and I know that you're not going to believe anything I say, and it's like, it doesn't matter. And I told Isaiah this when we did a podcast recently. It just doesn't seem to matter what we talk about. I know truths. I'm not dealing in speculation with any of these questions, you know, that you're asking me, or, you know, Isaiah, why he didn't make the dream team, you know, did he freeze out, George? People believe what they want to believe, and intelligent people, my friends who know the game, they're going to ask the same question that you just asked. And I said, hold on a sec. You really believe that this happened? You really believe that he got kicked out of the league for gambling? So the answer is absolutely not. I'm not going to give you how I know for a fact, although I did an interview with Stern after he retired. We talked about it at length, you know, and he totally shot that down. But I'm not going to share that part of it with you. But his father, he had made up his mind. He had made up his mind before his father died. He had made up his mind going into the finals, even before the finals. He had made up his mind to retire and to go play baseball. And again, if you want to look up a column I wrote about Michael, I went and interviewed him while he was playing baseball. I went down to Orlando, Florida, and watched him play in a game. And then I went to the hotel where the team was playing, and I waited for him. He had no idea I was coming, and he gave me an unbelievable interview. And I wrote at least one column, maybe two columns on that, on why he decided to quit. And he gave all the reasons. But people, you know, when they do the doc, they do the, you know, they didn't want to go there. They didn't want to bring that up. All the stuff he said about Pippen and Grant and Jackson and the media. He blamed everybody. I mean, he went after Pippen back then. He made fun of Horace Grant because you know that play where Paxson hit the 3-pointer to win Game 6. Yeah. You know, and he laughed about it. He says, yeah, he says, you know, Horace Grant had a layup. He could have had a layup, you know, to tie. Openly, he's always complaining about not getting any shots, and here he passed up a layup to throw it to a guy for a 3-point, you know, that kind of stuff. He was angry at Pippen for always crying about this and that, and angry at Phil Jackson because he would play the triangle for 3 quarters, and then, you know, if the team was down 10, 15 points, whatever, fourth quarter, Phil would go, okay, Michael, no triangle now. And Jordan and Kobe, the same way with Kobe. Kobe used to say that. Man, what's going on, man? You know, the triangles, this, you know, and now we're down and I have to bring the team back. So they were both upset about that. So anyway, he had many excuses for leaving. He was angry at the media for the gambling, for, you know, harping on his gambling. You know, so the answer is no.
Like, but what?
Oh, you're going to give me a butt? Are you really gonna give me a butt? Go on, give me your butt.
No, I was just saying, like, so do you know, like, what made him want to come back to the league again after, for a second
Why?
time?
Why?
Yeah.
I mean, I knew why when I went down to see him play in that one game, and I watched him play right field. And here's one of the, the greatest athletes the NBA has ever seen.
Yeah.
And he's standing in right field playing with himself. It's like gets up 4 times. I think he was 1 for 4 the game I saw him. So that was the extent. I don't even know if he had a put out. I don't know if he had a single to right field where he actually had to pick it up and throw it to second base. I don't remember that. All I remember is him like, there's Michael Jordan standing in right field,
Yeah.
dunking on nobody.
Well, we're all glad he decided to come back.
Yeah, so he came back. He decided to come back, and I was shocked actually, because of stuff he had told me. I remember saying to him, I certainly got into it. You ever coming back? And he goes, no, definitely not coming back. And I said, well, you can't stay out 2 years and expect to. He didn't stay out entirely 2. He came back and, with 18, I think, games to go, but in the second year. But he said, I can come back and be the same player. I said, get out of here. He said, yeah, no, I can. He said, do you realize that I could average 32 points a game and I only have to score 8 points a quarter? He said, you don't think I can do that?
That's awesome.
Yeah, exactly. So I said, okay, he talked me into it, but I was still surprised when he came back when he did, because he didn't have time to really get ready for the season and for especially playoffs coming up. They lost to Orlando.
Yeah.
And I believe it was Nick Anderson who made a great steal on him at a pivotal part of that series. I forget which game. So he really wasn't at the top of his game. It took him to next year to get it together, anyway. So, yeah.
That's awesome. What did?
No, wait, I got a question. So Dustin,
Okay.
Are you going to believe me or not?
I'm gonna believe anything that you say. You were there, I wasn't.
Exactly.
Well, I mean, I wasn't there. I know he was gambling in, Vegas and Atlantic City and all that stuff. But was he betting on games and stuff? No. This wasn't a Pete Rose situation. And that I'm quoting David Stern there. That's what he said. Okay.
Yes,
All right,
sir.
Dustin. Next time somebody says it, you stick up for me now.
What did? Wait, hold on. Dustin, your turn, right? Or no, my turn. What did Chuck Person and Reggie Miller have to do with the Malice at the Palace?
They both had to try to control our test. So I let that out of the bag in a recent podcast that Chuck Person was an assistant coach, and big guy. He turned into a big guy, and he was on the bench, and his whole role in the games was he was supposed to make sure that our test didn't do anything crazy, that he would get to him and hold him. And they were killing the Pistons at the Palace, and he decided the game was over, and he went to the bathroom. And Rick Carlisle was the coach, and he should have had his starters go to the bathroom too, but he kept people in, and Larry Brown kept his starters in. And Isaiah talked about that in the podcast we did. It just wasn't the right thing to do because the game was over. Yeah. So now you're opening it up to, bad things happening. You got your starters in the game. They could have gotten hurt. And as it turned out, they got more than hurt. They got suspended. One got suspended for the whole season. So Reggie Miller then was left when Person went to the bathroom, and then Artest jumped the table. Reggie was there trying to stop him. And where was that that wasn't going to happen. And so that was Reggie's thing in the game.
Yeah, that's crazy. Go ahead, Dustin.
All right, so this one's kind of a 3-parter, but I'll keep it short, okay?
Well, give me one at a time.
Okay. You've interviewed some of the best athletes in NBA history. Were you ever nervous?
Hey, Dustin, I'm nervous coming into this. I'm always nervous. Yeah, I'm not afraid to admit it. Not scared really, but in the beginning when I first started television, very nervous, nauseous. It reminded me when I first started, especially NBC, you could make mistakes when you did the cable networks and stuff like that. That's where I started. But now it's NBC and some of it's live, all that stuff. So I was nervous, but it reminded me of, I was in the Army. I was a paratrooper. And like 3 days before you were supposed to jump, they would put a manifest on the bulletin board, and if your name was on it, you were jumping 3 days from then. And so when I saw my name on it each time, I was nauseous. And I stayed nauseous until I got out of the plane.
Who was your favorite interview ever?
Favorite? Oh, I don't know. I had a lot of good ones. I don't know. I don't really know if I have a favorite. A lot of them turned out good. Most of the interviews were good. I've got a lot of favorite podcasts that I've done recently. Where you can really, we have an hour like this. We have an hour, and we can get into stuff. But when you're doing an interview for NBC, it was for 4 minutes, 3.5 minutes, 4 minutes. So you do an interview for an hour or something, and then they condense it they take 4 minutes out of it. So it makes it very difficult for them to get the choice stuff or get the stuff that I would prefer they use. I really wasn't in that process. Sometimes I'd make recommendations, but I always enjoyed the interviews, and I had to do it all myself. I didn't, I'd be writing 3 columns a week, and then NBC would send me to do an interview somewhere, wherever it was, Salt Lake City, Phoenix, wherever. And so I'm on the plane having to write my questions, getting ready to do an interview when I land. And so I'm in charge of everything and responsible for everything. And it wasn't easy. And, a lot of times I'm also thinking about what's my next column. I got to prepare for that. And yeah, so, there were a few controversial columns and a few controversial interviews, but most of them went pretty smoothly. I'd get stuff out of people. I remember Alonzo Mourning. I remember getting a lot of good stuff out of him. Getting a lot of good stuff out of I don't know, a lot of guys.
What was it like Dennis Rodman? You ever interview Rodman?
Yeah, I did him. Yeah. Well, he and I got along pretty well. We got along good. So when I would interview him, because I knew him when he was a rookie, and then when he went to San Antonio, and then I think I did an interview with him when he was in San Antonio, and then we went out to a bar after the interview, or maybe it was the day before the interview. I'm not sure. I don't remember. And yeah, so there I am at the bar with Dennis, and Jack Haley was the guy who was hanging out with him with the Spurs and in Chicago and everything. Jack Haley was this guy. Rest in peace, Jack. So those were cool things, to go out with the guys, a guy like him, that was, I'm not going to get into too much stuff, but that was pretty interesting. There's a lot of stuff going on. Trying to think, I've said it before, I'm not going to get into it again, but John Stockton was a real difficult interview.
Yeah.
Karl Malone was pretty easy. He was always forthcoming. Mark Jackson was good. A lot of guys were good. Pippen, I did Pippen and Grant a lot. Did them a lot. I'll tell you one. I did Tony Kukoc when Tony was playing in Europe.
Okay.
And NBC sent me over to Europe to try to get the exclusive story that he was going to join the Bulls the next year, because he was under contract in Europe. And so I went to the World Games in Greece, in Athens, and his team wound up losing. And I'm not going to get into every detail, but we were supposed to do it. We're supposed to. I got my producer with me. We're sent over there, specifically to do Tony Kukoc, and they made him piss into a bottle after the game, and he couldn't do it. So he's in a room, unable to give them a specimen, and we're waiting. And he comes out, his team is waiting for him to go back to Italy, and we don't get the interview.
Wow.
So my boss at NBC said, he ain't happy about this. And he said, all right, now you're going to Italy. Follow him to Italy, get the interview in Italy.
Jeez.
And we did. And we go to Italy, and now he tells us through his agent that he's sick, he can't do it. And again, my boss is saying, look, you guys can't do it. Don't come home. You're not going to be working here anymore. So we were under a lot of pressure, and I'm not going to give you the whole thing. I'm sorry, but he wound up giving me the interview.
Nice.
And we had a deadline. We had a whole deadline thing. We had worry about language. We've got to take it somewhere from where we are. We got to go by boat. It's ridiculous. It's ridiculously hard. And then it wasn't it wasn't synchronized. The tape wasn't synchronized. So my producer, who doesn't speak Italian, he has to figure it out. We're on a deadline. They're raising the they're paying $20,000 or $30,000 for us to get the I can't think of the name of it, but they're getting something in space for us, and he figured it all out. All I had to do was do the interview. He's got to figure this out, and we got it to. Am I boring you, Dustin? Hey,
no. Sorry,
that's it. You're out of here, Dustin. Get some sleep.
This is
Pull you out with Rodman last night.
I'm enjoying every minute of this. Trust me.
All right. Okay. So anyway, we got it. But it was the toughest thing going. And then we get back, he gave us the exclusive that he's coming to the Bulls. My boss is happy. We come back, they put it on the air. It was live on the air. We had to put it live. Hannah Storm was in there, got it to her. She puts it on the air. And so everybody's happy. And then we come back and our boss says to us, good job, but you could have gotten rid of that bottle. There was a bottle of scotch or something that was in the right in back of him, so you could see it the whole time. And he was angry about that. Like, we didn't notice. We were like under the gun, man. So you can't win. You couldn't win. We got the exclusive. We went through crazy. I lost my clothes in Greece on the way there on the plane. You couldn't win.
I can't imagine that. The pressure.
Oh my God. Pressure was on, man.
So this is something interesting. I mean, shout out to your podcast, Hoop du Jour. I checked out a couple episodes with Isaiah Thomas, George Gervin, Dominique. Such good content. I really enjoy it.
Thank you. You got to see, Wes was great. Julius was great.
Yeah.
Bobby Dandridge was fabulous.
Nice.
There was some good ones. Oscar.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I've only done Michael Richardson was terrific. Bob McAdoo was terrific. I'm only trying to do, the stars right now. We did Pat Williams, a two-parter with Pat Williams, which if you guys enjoy the history of the game, then you should watch those two, because he was there for so many teams and so much part of the, the 70s and the 80s and the 90s. He was there for all that, in charge. So he's got great stories. He's very honest. I recommend that two-parter to everybody.
Absolutely. So what I took away from one of them is Isaiah Thomas turning down a trade to the Knicks and then retired. And I imagine Isaiah Thomas and Patrick Ewing as teammates on the Knicks. And I think that's the best opportunity for Ewing to get a ring, don't you think?
No, because as Isaiah explained, he he couldn't play. He was young. He was only 32,
Yeah.
but he had an injury the year before. I think his Achilles or whatever, and he was not healed up. And then he had a fused wrist. I think it was his right or left wrist. It was fused, still is. And no, he said he couldn't. He knew he had to leave. He couldn't do it anymore. So it wouldn't have worked for Ewing. It wouldn't have worked. And then he had an opportunity to go when Toronto was starting, as a franchise, and he became the president and stuff. And he had some great drafts, when he was there. He had who did he have? He had McGrady and Stoudemire, Damon Stoudemire, and
Vince Carter, or no?
no, I think Vince was after him, but no, the center who went to the Knicks. Who went with Camby. Yeah, he had Camby. So he really had some good drafts.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, it didn't carry over to the Knicks when he was president.
Did you feel for Ewing, getting so close to a championship so many times, just couldn't get over that hump?
No.
Yeah.
No, I didn't. I mean, come on, a guy, he had his chances. I was sitting under the basket when they were playing the Pacers. I'm not sure the year, maybe, I'm not sure. So he had a chance to win the game at the end, and he's coming down court. I happened to move over there with my young son at the time. We're sitting right under the basket, and he's coming at us with like the game-winning layup, and he blew the layup. And that was it. They lost. It's like, whoa. No, I never felt. I felt sorry when guys got injured.
Yeah.
That kind of stuff. But no, I mean, he had his opportunities. And everyone says that the Knicks didn't put talent around him. They got to the finals twice. It wasn't, and every year they lost, they were losing to the Bulls. And when Jordan was out, they got there in '94. And no, I mean, you think he was sorry for me that I got let go by TNT when there was money to be made there? No, I don't think so.
Go ahead, Dustin.
You were a pretty well connected insider. You were behind the scenes at like dinners and parties and post games. What is your favorite story from behind, like, in the past?
If we can get that out of you.
Yeah, well, I have a lot of favorite stories, but when I was out with a lot of people, I had to, I had to be careful not to put stuff out there that, I was in confidence with them. If I was at a party, I think it was during the playoffs between Houston and Philly, and I was invited to a party where a football player was having it, and a well-known guy, and the drugs came out, and I went back to my hotel. But that would happen. That would happen, occasionally. I see stuff going on that, if I was going to write about it. No, I mean, I was privy to be there, and I wasn't going to ruin that. If it was a player that was, even so, I walked in on a guy. I'm not going to give you a name, sorry, but
Yeah, no worries.
I walked into a restaurant right underneath the Garden, Charlie O's, and after a game, and at some point I excused myself from my table and I went into the bathroom, and there was a Nick in there doing coke.
Wow.
And I turned around and left. Now, did I write about it? No.
Yeah.
But the guy wound up a drug guy. He wound up being identified as one. But I would see a lot. My favorite story, I'll give you one that I've written about. So when the Sixers lost to the Lakers in 1980, Game 6, and Magic had that that unbelievable game. Kareem stayed home. Remember, he hurt his ankle. So the Sixers lose at home, and let's see, that was what, 1980. So I'm married. My wife is with me, but she's a Laker fan. She's a Laker fan, and we're invited back to Julius Erving's apartment afterward, and she's got to pretend that she's upset. And so who else was there? Lynn Swan was there, and Teddy Pendergrass was there. And so we all have our women, and and everybody's like, like it's a wake. We're at a wake. And at one point, Julius went and he went to tape machine, and he put in the fish that saved Pittsburgh. He put it into the machine. And I go, oh my God. So and then I swear this happened, man. And then Teddy Pendergrass went and he put on one of his albums. And I said to Lynn Swan, Lynn, if you go out for a long pass, I'm leaving. This is ridiculous. Yeah. And by that time the women had retired and gone to sleep and stuff, and it's time to go. It's time to go.
Let's see here. Are you happy with the job that the new commissioner Adam Silver of the NBA is doing? With they're talking about a play-in. Well, they're doing the play-in tournament, and now they're talking about an in-season tournament. Is that gimmicky to you, or do you kind of like it? How do you see that?
Gimmicky is the right word. I don't like it at all.
Me neither.
I don't like it. I hate it. I don't like the baseball, what baseball does, when how many playoffs did they have? I mean, my God, I said it before these playoffs began. I said, I'm rooting for these playoffs to get snowed out. Let's it's happening. I mean, the Midwest is under snow. Could happen in Cleveland, could happen in the next round if Cleveland gets by the Yankees, could happen in New York. The rain out the other day was ridiculous. Baseball should have roofs on the top. If you're going to have this, you're going to be playing into November, and it's easily November now. I mean, and now it's ridiculous. It's going to be playing into December, for crying out loud. So no, I don't like it at all. The players, what's the incentive? This tournament during a season, what's the incentive? For what? It's not for money. What is it for?
Yeah.
For pride? I don't think so. No, they don't even have any pride during the playoffs. I mean, during the All-Star game, there's no pride in that for how many years now. So, no, I don't like. Look, Adam does a great job. He's a lot of pressure to be solving the problems that happen. Starting with the owners in that league.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, back in the day, they let owners slide by doing some of the same stuff that they're throwing owners out now. I mean, some of those guys were lunatics and they were racists, some of the owners. Ted Stepien, who owned the Cavaliers, I mean, he would be quoted talking about he's not going to play, more than 2 black guys in the starting lineup. He's going to have 3 whites, or maybe he said 4. I can't remember. He was quoted saying these things. I mean, he was an out and out nut job. So they let that slide. They let, and then, it evolves into, having a Sterling and having a Sarver. I mean, I've been around Sarver for years, he was out of control the way he would treat people. I saw that. Though I don't believe some of the stuff they said he did. I don't believe some of it, but he was a lunatic to be around. And so the commissioner's got a lot to deal with. Where do you get involved? I remember Stern got involved with the Larry Brown situation, with Dolan, where he fired him, and then they had to work out a compromise on money. He only coached there 1 year, and they owed him, like, I don't know, I can't remember, 30-something million, whatever. He wound up with 18 million. Lot to do. So very, very difficult especially in this world today, where you got to watch what you say and watch what you do, and then where does the league get involved? And obviously they can't do it he can't do a lot without the Players Association. And so they've got to be much tighter than they ever were before in making command decisions, important decisions. I hope the association is against the in-season tournament that they're thinking about.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Dustin.
You said before that you feel like the 80s Lakers were the best team ever assembled. Do you still believe that? And because the younger generation these days think it was the KD Warriors.
Dustin, where did you get that quote from?
Oh,
That is not an accurate quote.
it isn't?
Never,
I fed Dustin that quote, so that's on
no,
me.
I've never said that. Never
Okay.
even, no, never actually thought of it. I've always maintained the 86 Celtics were the best team I'd ever seen.
Okay.
KD Warriors, we could discuss that, how I think that the Celtics would have dominated them, because let's face it, they had 3 7-footers, and that's not even counting Bird. And all 3 7-footers are in the Hall of Fame, and so is Bird. So they would have dominated inside, just dominated. And then they played defense. They had Dennis Johnson. They had guys that played defense, and then they could shoot. Just like the Warriors could shoot. They had some of the best shooters in the league. Wedman was a phenomenal shooter. Jerry Seasting was a phenomenal 3-point shooters. I'm talking about. So Ainge was a good 3-point shooter. Obviously, Bird was. So there's no way the Warriors would have beaten the 86 Celtics. Now, there are other teams that maybe 87, maybe the 87 Lakers could have. The Magic thinks that was his best team. The 67 76ers, they had a terrific team. And how about the Celtics, who won 8 in a row and 11 out of 13? I mean, come on, they had everybody on the team became a Hall of Famer. So how can you not count those guys? Count one of those teams, or 2 or 3 of those teams. They're totally overlooked. Totally.
Where would you rank the Steph Curry dynasty now in?
I don't do that, Dustin. I'm not going to rank them. I don't really. You ask me about them, I could give you an answer.
Okay.
Like I just gave you, but I'm not trying to rank them, or I really don't try to speculate on who could have beaten who. I did that for you. Did that for you, Dustin. But no, I don't. No rankings here.
Yeah. Let's see here. So we got a NBA prospect coming up, Victor Wembanyama. They're saying, Richard Jefferson said if LeBron was coming out in this same class, Victor Wembanyama would be the best prospect. You think about the greatest. I mean, to me, Shaq coming out of LSU, MJ coming out of North Carolina, Bird and Magic, guys like that. Do you think Victor Wembanyama has a chance to be on that level?
So you're asking me for conjecture again. I've never seen him play.
Yeah.
I saw the quotes. Evidently he's going to be a great player. He's got the wingspan, the 3-pointer. He can put it on the floor. He can do everything. Now let him do everything. It's like the kid that just came out of Gonzaga, who hurt himself in the summer league. He hurt himself. Those tall guys, man, they're very vulnerable for injuries.
Yeah.
He's going to go up and dunk on somebody, and somebody's going to come underneath him, and that's the end of his career. So I don't, let's see what happens. I wish him all the luck in the world. Can't wait to see him play. But you're right. All the guys you named that came in, Kobe. But Kobe didn't even start his rookie year. And, Jordan was drafted 3rd. He wasn't drafted number 1. Akeem was. So, it's like it's different times. LeBron coming out of high school, they could draft him number 1 because they saw him play against pros. In fact, Philadelphia got fined and maybe even had a draft pick taken away because he was working out with a lot of the 76ers when he was in high school. I'm pretty sure that happened. So they knew he was going to be really good, but he was very flawed when he came in. As good as he was, couldn't shoot. Still can't. He's still not a great shooter, but whatever. So I don't know.
What do you think of the quality of athlete in today's sports and today's NBA? I mean, I look back and the legends of the game, Bill Russell, Wilt, Kareem, Magic, and I feel like they would dominate in this era. Freedom of movement, and you know, it's a different game, and you can't contact anybody anymore. You know, Harden took a 3 tonight, and they wanted to call a flagrant for getting bumped into him. Do you think the players today are babied too much and wouldn't, you know, it's a different game, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, I really, I'm all, first of all, the athlete today is, you know, to me, far superior. You're right about all the guys you named. They would have no problem today. They would, you know, Wilt might average 100 a game,
Yeah.
instead of getting it in one game. But the athletes today, that what they can do is, you know, it makes sense, doesn't it? I mean, they're getting stronger, they're getting faster, they have you know, better methods to train by. They're eating better. They charter. Everything's easier. They, you know, they have hot and running masseuses on the planes. You know, they have whatever. They've got everything going for them. Yeah. So those guys. I forgot what I was going to say at the beginning. But those guys would definitely dominate. Oh, I know what I was going to say. So I didn't see the Harden thing. Somebody came under him. They called a flagrant.
Yeah.
I was in a gym in Arizona. My son was playing. He was in high school. He was maybe a sophomore in high school, and he was playing in a gym against you know, Michael Bibby and those guys. I mean, they were giving him. They didn't pull anything back on him. They roughed them up and stuff, and I thought it was great. But I remember one guy, when my son would take a jump shot, he'd come under him, and I was infuriated because the kid's a sophomore, first of all, and he could be injured, you know. And I remember yelling at the guy, you know, like I was ready to fight. I was like, you got to be kidding me, man. You know, just trying to intimidate a sophomore in high school. Maybe he's a freshman. Then I said, you got, you know, whatever. Yeah. So I'm all for guys not being able to come under you. That was long. That should have happened years and years ago. You know, you come on, you know, a guy doesn't have a place to put his feet, man. Yeah. I think a flagrant's not good enough for you, because he turns his ankle. I've had sprained ankles where it came down on somebody's foot. I was out 6 weeks. I was crying. It hurt so much. So yeah, some of the rules I'm all for, and that's definitely one of them.
Nice. Go ahead, Dustin, with 17.
So who is your pick to win the NBA Finals this year? I know it's early. I know it's real early.
No, I'm not even going there, Dustin. Sorry, man. I have no idea. How can anybody know? I mean,
can I give my early prediction?
Yeah.
I got the Bucks and the Warriors.
You got who?
The Bucks and the Warriors, and I believe that the Warriors are going to two-peat.
Okay. Well, those kind of easy ones. You know, you can pick some easy ones. Yeah. I mean, if Middleton comes back and he's the player he was before he got hurt, I mean, it's a good team. It's a really good team. Warriors, obviously, great team. But I like a lot of the young teams. I like a lot of the depths on some of the young teams. You know, Atlanta has really improved. Memphis. You know, it'll be interesting to see if Phoenix can come back to what it was supposed to happen last year. They had the best record, and they fall apart in Game 7 against Dallas. They still. None of these genius media guys who break all these stories has ever been able to tell us the story on what happened with Ayton and the coach in Game 7. What happened? Yeah. I mean, how can they not have that story? Yeah. How can the local guys not have that story? And then the coach doesn't talk to him the whole summer. You know, what's going on there? And, you know, then they lost the, you know, one of their, you know, what's the power forward? He doesn't want to play there. He wants a new contract, whatever. But they had the best team last year. And Paul is another year older and always susceptible to injury, as good as he is. So I don't know. I kind of like the young teams. I'm kind of like rooting for those teams to do well. I'm not, you know, Boston, obviously, you know, stuff that's happened to them, but you know, they've made some good moves over the off season. Philly has improved, no question. I saw what Harden looks like. It looks like he lost so much weight. It looks like he lost a twin brother. You know, my goodness. I mean, now you see him now, and those people who were saying he was, well, he's not in bad shape last year. Are you kidding me? He
Yeah.
was so out of shape last year. It was a joke. I mean, I have no respect for him whatsoever, because he tanked in Houston. He tanked with the Nets, got himself traded, and finally gets in shape, you know. And God, we're early yet. I mean, there's a whole lot of partying to be done this season. So let's see what happens with James.
Yeah. How about the? So I'll get you out of here on this. My prediction. I'm still holding on to the Nets. I feel like the Nets can get it going if Ben Simmons can actually play. You know, he could really help out, get Kyrie and KD some open looks. Is LeBron gonna get back to the playoffs? You know, those Lakers are so hard to figure out, and I don't see Westbrook and Beverly working at all. I don't think.
You know, it's funny how that happens. So guys that got into, fights before, or, he blamed Beverly he should have blamed Beverly for coming under him that time and injuring him and stuff like that. I mean, but guys playing on the same team, they'll get it together. You know, they'll figure it out. If they've improved, they definitely have improved. Look, if Draymond Green and Poole can work it out, and I'm sure they can. I'm sure it's over. But when's the next time Draymond is going to say, "Oh, I'm hurting. My mental health. I'm hurting." His emotions get the best of him. He already cost them one title in 2016. To me, all the stuff that he's done since and even before were grounds to get rid of him. I don't care what he does defensively and stuff. The guy, he's an emotional midget, and for him to be yelling at the referees and, getting into with opponents, dirty plays that he does. And stuff. The guy, it's just going to happen. He's just totally combustible, and he could definitely cost them, but I don't think it's going to be because of him and Poole. Okay. Yeah. So the Nets again, those guys, I mean,
hard to predict. Yeah.
Well, hard to predict. Yeah. You can predict Kyrie will do something crazy, and Simmons probably will too. And Durant, how long will he let the coach? Who does he? I mean, amazing what he tried to pull,
Yeah.
Although I agree with him on both things. I think Nash and the GM should have been fired, but
well, it's crazy.
The GM, trading Allen to Cleveland so he can get Harden.
Yeah.
I mean, did he not do his homework? Did he not know what Harden's all about?
I know.
Oh,
I didn't like that.
No.
Well, it was great to have you on, Peter. The season starting tonight, so we're the full season in front of us. I'll let you go so we can catch this Lakers Warriors game. But it was awesome having you on, and you're still a legend to this day, man.
All right, thanks a lot.
Yep.
Dustin, did you find out whether McCloskey coached Portland?
I could not find it.
Look under McCloskey and see what he did. All right.
All right. Thanks so much, Peter.
I do appreciate you coming on, man. You taught me a lot tonight about the game.
Good. I'm glad. Just make sure that you stick up for me now, or tell people they're wrong about Jordan with the gambling. Okay.
We got you.
All right. Okay. Take it easy.
All right. Thanks so much, guys. Don't forget to like, subscribe, leave a comment. Appreciate the support. Have a great week, guys. Peace out.